These are diamond water stones for sharpening. There's not much information out at this point on diamond water stones, but they are starting to hit. A buddy of mine who also has a YouTube channel, Big Brown Guy, did some excellent videos on diamond water stones, and really he had been talking about them before that, but in seeing the videos that he did, it really piqued my interest in the products. I found these from Venive on Amazon. They weren't hard to find. They weren't terribly expensive either. And the small size, I mean, for me, given the lowered cost, I thought was perfect. I figured I would try them, and if I like them enough, maybe sometime in the future, I'll look into the larger size stones. These, like I said, these are starting to hit on the sharpening groups. You're starting to see more and more about these. The advantage to these is that, being that they're diamond, like a diamond plate, they can cut the really high carbide steels, high vanadium, high tungsten content steels, and you don't have a problem there at the end. With traditional water stones, alumina stones, depending upon the stone, different alumina stones do better than others, but with steels like S110V, you're going to have a problem at some point in the sharpening on vanadium rich steels. With these diamond water stones, it's not really going to be the case. These are bonded stones. This is a Naniwa stone. It's a resin bond. I believe these are resin as well. And these are various grits and double-sided. These Venive stones, it's 400, 800, and 1200, 2000 grit. In getting these almost feel like ceramic stones to the touch. When you go to sharpen on them, it's also similar to ceramic, and they do load. You do have an issue with loading. This is a Nagura stone, just an inexpensive Nagura stone from Amazon. It's supposed to be 8,000 grit. I'm not sure that it is. I just use it to clean the loading off of the stones as opposed to scrubbing or something like that, and it does just fine with that. In getting these stones, these Venive stones, I really wanted to jump in feet first and try them on a variety of different steels and see what I thought. I didn't want to spend months and months, experimenting with them to see what I wanted to try and accelerate the process. And I have sharpened a number of different steels on these stones, usually finishing with something other than these stones, taking it farther. The 2000 grit is not all that fine from Venive. It's finer than, say, a coarse diamond plate, but it's not as fine as, say, a Spyderco ultrafine. So, I mean, I've sharpened S30V and HAP40 and M4 and S90V and S110V, maybe even a few others besides those. And they do good. The stones do good. They do load. If you keep a Nagura stone around and you keep it wet, you can clean the loading right off. It only takes a moment, and then you're right back into sharpening. The bonding on these, I mean, you can see it's a very thin layer of abrasive, but the bonding is extremely hard, and it really doesn't dish. And as long as you're cleaning it off, I mean, you're truing the stone as you clean it off. Anything that I don't expect you to dish in if you're cleaning it off each time. This is a diamond water stone from Naniwa, and it's a 6,000 grit stone. Again, very thin layer of abrasive there. The Naniwa stone definitely cuts slower. Now, it's a higher grit, so I mean the lower grits tend to cut faster, but I mean even at that, this stone does cut very slow. I don't necessarily consider that a bad thing. It's one of the downfalls of diamond plates, that you can have such aggressive cutting on your knives. You can really widen a bevel. You really eat up a lot of steel with them. Even the Venive stones cut slower, and they leave a finer finish. And in using only the Venive, I almost feel like if I was trying different things. I was trying different sharpening patterns and different combinations of these with different finishing stones. I would do these and then the ultrafine, or these and the ultrafine with diamond spray on it, or these and a 20K Suhiro with diamond spray on it, or just a 20K Suhiro with nothing on it, and just trying different things and observing and seeing what I found. And I almost feel like these are with a steel like S110V or M4 or HAP 40 or K390. These really give a great setup. They really put the bevel in the right position to get a high polish on it. Something that I did notice that I thought was interesting, it seemed as if high carbide, low chromium content steels took a polish better than high carbide steels with high chromium content. And when I say high chromium content, what I'm talking about is, really I'm talking about S90V and S110V. 10V class steels with a chromium content 14% or above, which really factors them into being, 14 or above is the threshold for whether or not a steel is considered stainless. It would polish the bevels, but there seemed to be some resistance in getting that scratch pattern out, almost as if the wear resistance was higher. But K390, I sharpened K390 on them, and that polished up beautifully. So it's something more than just your general rating of wear resistance. I didn't expect to be doing this Naniwa stone in this review. I didn't think I would have this yet. This was being shipped from Japan, and I thought it was going to take longer to get here. After getting it, I figured I would just throw it into the mix. Although the only thing I've sharpened on this is S110V, which is really, it's not the best thing to do to really give an evaluation of the stone. I mean, S110V is extremely difficult. It's really hard-headed when it comes to sharpening, taking it to that super high level of sharpness. So, I mean, I'm looking forward to using these more altogether, and I really feel between the cutting ability and the slow wear and the way it sets you up for a finer edge as opposed to what you get with the diamond plates, I really feel like these could be the future of sharpening really high carbide steels that are typically difficult to deal with. I think the product, the idea, definitely has the potential for that, and I mean, this is really the direction that I'm leaning as far as stones go at this point. It's really piqued my interest. So, I mean, I sharpened HAP 40 with them. Followed a particular procedure with that as I was finishing. That came up hair whittling sharp, polished beautifully. I sharpened K390. Again, it's a low chromium steel, high carbide, high vanadium content, but low chromium. Polished beautifully, came up beautifully sharp. Really, I was really impressed with the performance of the stones. Like I said, S90V and S110V had more problems, and I've sharpened several knives in S110V. This UKPK being the latest. In doing this, I mean, I had sharpened this with just the Veneve and then trying different combinations at the end for finishing, and thought, okay, maybe if I take it through multiple sharpenings, I can work that scratch pattern out, and was going down that road. And when this Naniwa stone came in, I was really interested to see how that would do throwing that into the mix. The 6,000 grit stone, and 2,000 to 6,000 isn't too big of a jump. I mean, it sounds like a lot, but it's really not. Quite frankly, from Naniwa, what they offer, the next step below the 6K stone is a 3K stone, so you're really not that far off. Although it wouldn't surprise me if what they're dealing with is 3K is finer than what Veneve is, but that doesn't matter. Like I said earlier, I feel like the Veneve stones are really setting you up for a high polish if that's what you want to go for with the steels, or at the very least a finer edge. So with this UKPK, I was doing different combinations of sharpening and trying different things, and I was missing the mirror polish on S90V and S110V. And S110V was really where I was chasing it, figuring if I could get it on S110V, I could get it on anything. And I could get a high polish, but it really wasn't perfect. It really wasn't, fully coming out to, I don't know, maybe I hold myself to a higher standard when I say mirror polish, but I was really chasing that. And at some point, almost being frustrated with the situation, I had to step back and consider what I was doing. I mean, here I was. The draw to these stones in the beginning was you can take high carbide steels that normally I would go for a coarse finish with, and you got a perfect opportunity to get a high polish, and it's full diamond or very close to full diamond. You're not challenging the integrity of the edge, and so that's what I was chasing going into it, and I had to stop and reconsider and think to myself, maybe it's just a finer edge. Maybe it's not going to be mirror polished, but I mean, if you had said to me before these stones that I could get a diamond plate finer than an extra extra fine from DMT, I would have jumped at it. I would have paid a lot of money for it. You know, if Atoma put out a triple extra fine or an ultra fine or something like that, I would have been all over it. So when I stopped and I started thinking of it from that point of view, it really turned around my thinking. And instead of the idea of chasing a mirror polish, I thought to myself, chase the edge, forget the polish. So going back into it with this knife, I mean, I had sharpened this with adding the Naniwa in and bringing it to a high polish, and the edge was good. It felt very sharp. It was struggling to whittle hairs, but I think that was the sharpening. I think the sharpening was flawed. But I stepped back from that, and from starting over with it, well, I did do some cutting with that edge. I did. I mean, working with paper, working with rope, working with balsa. I was really just, I mean, I was as much evaluating the knife as I was anything else. Did some cutting, wasn't a terribly large amount. And I think after that, I brought this extra extra fine diamond plate into it. I brought this into the sharpening and brought the edge back. The edge was still fairly sharp after that amount of cutting, but I apexed the knife with the diamond plate, and then moved on to the 6,000 grit stone, and I wanted to see what would happen. I mean, as opposed to the type of sharpening that I would do before these stones, where I would go from extra extra fine and then onto a finishing stone like the Spyderco ultra fine. I thought, all right, let's go from the extra extra fine and try and use this and just see what happens. I just wanted to see what the edge finish would be like and how fine it would get. Really wasn't concerned with the polish at this point, because again, I had changed my thinking from polish to the edge and sharpness. I moved through that sharpening, did quite a bit on this. It does cut slowly. It really does. I mean, even apexing the knife happens very slowly on this stone. After that, I moved on to strops, and in most of the cases with these with these sharpenings, you know, from the jump with these stones, the stropping that I was dealing with was a 1 micron, half micron, quarter micron, all on wood. You can take it farther. I can take it farther. I've got the compounds to take it farther, but I just wanted to see what I was dealing with. Wasn't so much concerned with pushing it as far as I could. Just wanted to get an idea. And 1 micron, half micron, quarter micron is kind of a go-to for me with stropping, unless I'm choosing to push it further than that. The edge did come up ultra aggressive. I really, for S110V, I haven't been able to beat a diamond finish, a diamond plate finish, a coarse finish, and then polishing that out a little bit. But the aggression that comes with the edge is just so impressive. It really stands out to me. And S110V is difficult to deal with anyway, so doing it that way seems to really set you up for success. So I was happy with that. I've got a lot more work to do with these stones. I may in the future invest in more Naniwa stones. I'm impressed with it. It cuts slow, but I don't see that as a bad thing. I mean, it allows you to use diamond without, like I said, without having to worry so much about how you're going about it with the knife and possibly taking too much of the knife away. So These Veneve stones are good. They cut more slowly than the plates too, and I suggest them, and I suggest the Naniwa stones, and I'm interested to see how the other grits from Naniwa, how they compare to my impressions of this one. I'm impressed with this knife too, this Spyderco UKPK. I wasn't jumping on it at first, and then I kept buying more slip joints from Spyderco, and I don't know, I guess I was looking into this, and I noticed the measurements. I noticed that the width is the same as a Delica, or very close to a Delica. Delicas are run very thin, very good slicers, and that really got my radar up. And then figuring that it's a deeper grind from spine to edge, so from that initial thickness of the spine, working your way down, you're going to have, as opposed to a Delica, which is a little bit not as deep of a blade, you're going to have more space to work before that bevel starts to widen out. People who are really into sharpening are going to know what I'm talking about with that. You sharpen a knife too many times, you remove too much steel, and the bevel widens as the angle stays the same, moving up a thicker blade. The blade gets thicker because it moves closer to the spine. So, in getting this knife, though, I'm really impressed with it. It's a very good slicer. It's good ergonomics, extremely light. You don't need to bother with a lock. It's really, in this kind of a knife, it's really not necessary. And Spyderco did a good job with it. It's almost like you're taking away all the unnecessary pieces. I mean, just carrying it and using the knife, it really stands out as efficient and effective. So I am impressed with it, and I'm finding myself carrying this quite a bit. But yeah, the diamond water stones are good. I'm going to be using them more and more. I'm hoping that Veneve does more with them. The Naniwa stones are pretty expensive. This isn't a cheap stone at all. Although they have become more available. This was from Amazon as well, and as they become more available and people are competing in price, the prices tend to come down. So the whole thing is interesting. The Nagura stone that comes with the Naniwa stone, I don't prefer. I really prefer the Nagura stone, the cheap one from Amazon. 8,000 grit or pseudo 8,000 grit. I'm not really sure if 8,000 is what it is, but it does a good job of cleaning off the stones. So yeah, I'm really enjoying these stones, and I really am looking forward to using them more, and really getting my patterns down with how I like to use them, and what kind of combinations and finishing stones I want to apply to the different steels with different sharpenings.